structures we have in place right now are absolutely not compatible with our ambiguous world. Let's unpack that. Current engineering leadership and the leaders we have gotten there through logic, through having great engineering integrity, and having a huge amount of knowledge, not only of their engineering, but of systems engineering as well. This is what we respect. But what does the world today look like? The world today looks more like a world full of political cycles. It's a world full of social media and fake news. It's the outraged society. It's where Google is your source of truth and knowledge, not engineers, not scientists. No, the things we value are starting to erode. And this is a problem for us because we are in this world now. So what are we going to do? Well, let's look at ourselves. Okay, what do we love? We love solving problems. That is intrinsically what we are good at. You give some definition, boundaries, logics, and rules, you are going to get one happy engineer. Look at this guy, loving it. But what if I change the problem a little bit? What if the problem is a multidisciplinary team, different nationalities, different genders, different ages, different technical backgrounds, and none of them are getting along? How are any of those going to help him solve that problem? Let's go external. Let's say you're building a big infrastructure project and you're going through a community that is absolutely outraged at what you're doing. And the media are there and the politicians are there and you've got to go out and explain it. And is this the guy you're going to send up there? I'm being a little bit facetious because obviously he's a caricature of engineering. But we know there's some truth in it. We know there's some truth in it. Even our own organizations aren't looking like they used to before. You know, back in the day, it was just the mechanical engineering team did their bit and the electrical engineers did their bit and the civil engineers did their bit and the project manager's word was law. And everyone followed to the beat of that drum and projects got done because it was all very linear. There were no competing interests. But now, organizations are far bigger. I work in a matrix organization. Who here has heard of a matrix organization? Okay, we're going to love this. So for those of you who have ever tried to get something done in a matrix, well, it can be a little bit round the houses. So typically projects get set up and they follow general hierarchical rules, but then you've got functions such as your environmental functions, your community engagement functions, and probably your asset engineering functions. So with these in place, you're supposed to have a very linear way of getting projects done. But we know this isn't true, right? So let's say I'm the PM of Project 1. And I go to Ben, he's my enviro, and I say, Ben, tell me about this enviro problem. I've heard it from Andrew, who's his boss, that we might have an issue on the project. Now, Nicola might come to Ben and say, well, we've had this on my neighboring project, and I think we've got a genuine issue across the project. So I go, all right, well, Ben, tell Andrew about it, and we're going to take some action. Now, Rob from the other project will talk to Laura, who's a community engagement person. She's dealt with this before and she knows the community are not happy. She talks to Naomi and talks to me and then talks to Rob and say, we need a strategy of how on earth we're going to deal with this. I'm like, all right, well, Naomi, this is what I'd like you to do. And I also want you to talk to Katrina because she's my asset engineering lead because we're going to have to change the design. Need you to talk to Wayne and talk to Karen. She's my other sister project because her and Rob have worked on something similar before and they've had that change in engineering. So then they go to Alan, who's the head of asset engineering, and he says, right, well, I think that is something you can do, John. And I'll just let Karen know and Rob know, and we'll just go up to the Inland Rail leadership team just in case there's a program implication. So they'll tell me, yes, John, there is a program implication. And Andrew will tell me what to do. And I'll tell Karen, this is what I'm going to do. Then I'll tell Ben. Then I'll tell Naomi. Then I'll tell Katrina, this is what we're going to do for the project. Then the IRLT will tell Rebecca, who's the head of community engagements, that they need to write something to let all the community know that everything is fine. And it's simple. That's what it's like doing projects. We know this. We know this. Let's keep going. What about, I said 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. 2 happy workers, 2 sad workers. Do I have 4 satisfied workers? I don't know. If I have 2 poor tech reports and 2 great tech reports, do I have 1 good design? I don't know, it depends. If I have 2 consultants and 2 construction supervisors, do I have 4 hours? These are the things we know. There's no logic here, there's no boundaries, but we know them. We know them. The thing is, we're so used to doing our linear problems that maybe we've missed a trick. Maybe we just need to change our perspective on what we do as engineers, because we can do this. We just need to reframe it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I said that I am the project manager for Inland Rail, and my degree says civil engineer. But I can assure you, what I do every single day is solve puzzles. Social puzzles, technical puzzles, non-technical puzzles, and I call them puzzles because unlike a problem or a project, they still have an outcome and a start, but all the boundaries are different and they shift. The logic about how I go about solving them is different, but the critical thing is, as I think about it being a puzzle, it gives me the lateral movement to think about solving it in different ways. And engineers are good at this. We love solving puzzles. So let's give some examples. Let's look at project way, puzzle way. I did a job after the 2011 floods, and the consultant and the contractor had come to a complete halt over the design of a piece of drainage infrastructure. The project manager had come in. These guys were not getting along. Well, it's my way or the highway. And the contractor took the highway. He was like, well, screw you. And off he went. Now we've got no works happening and stuff needs to be rebuilt. That infrastructure needs to work. So I come in and I have a look at them like, wow, these guys really don't like one another. How is that possible? Because when I look at both of their designs, both of their suggestions, my gosh, both of them were brilliant. Then I looked at their communications with one another. And I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, 13-year-olds on the internet would not beat these guys in terms of arguing with one another. The viv are all in there. So what did I do? I took the puzzle way. I said, I am now the point of comfort. I am the point of communication. You're going to send all your emails to me. So I took Ralph's emails, the consultant, did not change his suggestions, did not change his ideas, took out all of the emotional language, sent it on to Mike. Mike responded, I did not change his suggestions, I did not change his ideas, but I took out all the emotional language, added a few colorful words, just open-ended questions. And was this a giant pain in my posterior? Absolutely. But after 2 weeks, all of the emotion had dropped from their emails. I didn't need to change anything because they were finally starting to see each other's perspective. They were taking a step back from their positions. Their communication with one another was starting to get together. They were starting to see that 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4, particularly when you're butting up against people. Okay, so that's internally. Let's take an external example. Let's say I'm building a large piece of infrastructure and I roll out to the farm and I say, right, mate, I'm going to put a huge embankment through your farm. I'm going to put a rail line on top of it. I know it's a floodplain, but don't you worry, buddy, because my computer with the flood model in it says everything's going to be A-OK. Well, so what happens? Farmer goes, I don't bloody believe you, mate. You and your diddle-dee-dee accent can't tell me anything about flooding. I've lived here for 75 years with 4 generations of my family, and you don't get to tell me about flooding. Let's say we took the project way. I could just say, well, you know what? I'm the one with the engineering degree. I'm the one with the engineering team who developed that model. I'm the one with the CP Eng. I'm the one with the regulator behind me. I'm the one who's going to come and build this. Let's play that out in today's world. Cliff calls up his mate Janine. Janine, these people are coming. They're coming through my land. They're telling me about flooding. They're telling me what to do in this situation. Janine might be the local mayor. Janine's not having a bar of this. She calls up a friend of hers from university who works down in Canberra. And she says, Paul, we've got this big company coming through. They're barreling right over our Aussie battlers telling us about flooding and we don't like it. And before you know it, Your project is at a standstill. You've got media all over it. You've got the mayor all over it. You've got people protesting. And have you done a single engineering thing wrong? Nope. Because we fail to see it from their perspective. Because what's the puzzle way of looking at this? The puzzle way is recognizing that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. Not for them, because these guys have an emotional connection to their land. We need to understand that empathetically, and then we figure out there's more that we can get from them to help solve the puzzle. Because all I have is analytical data. They've got empirical data. They've really been there. So what do? We literally go out in the utes with them. We drive around the land. We collect old data from old floods, where things came to in their sheds, where the landforms have changed. We try and bring in that empirical data. And then we combine it with the analytical data. And together we try and start to understand one another. But until you take the position of 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4, you're not in the mindset to start solving the puzzle rather than the problem. Now, speaking of problems, I promised you Excel, and I can see people getting giddy about Excel. So let's go look at Excel. So I said at the start, 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. I stand by that. So I have not modified the sheet. I've even left the top bar in place. So you can see that when I take the output and I add 2 + 2 together, and hardly any of you agreed that 2 + 2 equals 4, 2 + 2 equals 5. I thought there'd be more of a when everyone did that. Oh well. 2 + 2 equals 5. Haven't messed with that sheet. Let's look at the same sheet, same formula, and all I'm going to do is take a step back and add a little bit of perspective. A tiny bit of perspective, and 2 + 2. Oh, well, that one makes sense. Now, imagine that at the start of this session, where we believe in integrity, logic, and knowledge, and we could not fathom 2 + 2 equal 4, and I add a tiny bit of perspective, and I was like, oh yeah, well, obviously, because we all make rounding errors. Of course we do, because that's how you get engineering to work. All we need to do is translate that same level of thinking to what we do outside of the teams. So we've already got the building blocks. Like, we can solve problems. We just need to start thinking about solving puzzles. Because we know we've already got integrity, truth, logic, knowledge. We've got that with one another. We're solid. But if we start to think outside the realms, puzzle mentality, now we can start to add in flexible thinking, empathy towards one another and towards our stakeholders, and critically adding perspective to all of our problems. So, ladies and gentlemen, when you walk out of here today and you're thinking about an issue you have in your team where people are butting heads, think to yourself, does 2 + 2 not equal 4? If you're having an issue with a stakeholder where things aren't going right for you and you can't get your head around it, just think about it. It's not a problem. It's not a project. It's a puzzle. And remember, 2 + 2 does not equal 4. Thank you very much.